Boxing Truth here, back with another video. Alright, let's talk about this exhibition that's about 17 years too late. A fight that's still generated a lot of buzz, even though both guys are way past their primes, in their 50s. One hasn't fought in 15 years, the other hasn't fought in over 2 years. Roy's been knocked out a number of times since his rematch with Antonio Tarver. And the last time we saw Tyson in the ring, he quit against a unheralded Kevin McBride. So, not very fond memories lately in the ring when it comes to these two. The last memories in the ring. But despite the fight being finalized 17 years too late, there's still a lot of buzz surrounding these guys. These are two boxing legends, two legendary figures in the sport of boxing. You know, Roy was the man in the 90s, was considered the fighter of the decade. Mike Tyson dominated the heavyweight division in the 1980s, mid to late 80s. Became undisputed champion, all within 3 years of turning pro. Defeated the lineal champion, destroying Michael Spinks in one round. That fight cemented his legacy. Had Mike retired that night, he would have been a Hall of Famer, or considered an all-time great. And Roy, he made a terrible decision 17 years ago, which really influenced his career. He's still regarded as a great fighter, a Hall of Famer, a boxing legend. But had he just made that simple decision to not move back down to light heavyweight and fight an aging, still dangerous, but an aging Mike Tyson, had he won that fight and rode off into the sunset, Roy Jones would be considered the GOAT. He would have been considered the greatest fighter that ever lived. Ever. And it would have been much of an argument. I mean, he was the man. He was the fighter of the decade in the 1990s. He was the most hardest fighter to beat at that time. No one could touch him. He was too fast. He was too flamboyant. He was too damn good. He was too dominant in his heyday, to the point where HBO was criticizing him because he was just too goddamn dominant, especially with some of the selection of his opponents and how he failed to deliver on some occasions in dispatching these lesser opponents. You know, Roy took some criticism for his careful type style, not really going for risks all the time. Just taking it easy, being content with just, winning a boring, lopsided decision in some of his fights. But still, man, he would have been considered the GOAT had he just made the simple decision of just taking the proposed $40 million showdown with an aging Mike Tyson. I mean, it really makes me scratch my head. Why did Roy Jones duck Mike Tyson in 2003? Why the fuck? I mean, who the hell was your advisor, bro? Why the fuck would you turn down a $40 million payday? $40 million payday, bro, against an aging Mike Tyson to fight an unknown but dangerous, fresh, and confident Antonio Tarver, who was just burning with hunger to get that shot at you, bro? Instead of fighting an Asian guy who was just looking for one last payday in a winnable fight, but dangerous fight, you fight Antonio Tarver, go life and death, barely scrape by with some regards as a gift decision, and then you get iced in the rematch within 2 rounds, the very next fight, and you was never the same after that. Your career was done. Your fucking career ended on November 15th, 2003, when you scraped by Antonio Tarver. That aura of invincibility was gone from that night forward. The argument that he was the GOAT was gone, especially after you got iced by Tarver within 2 rounds. But this is one of the more questionable business decisions and just head-scratching decisions a fighter has ever made in their career. It's happened before. Look, Marquez turned down a Pacquiao rematch to fight Chris John and lost. It happens. You know, Shane Mosley fights Winky Wright before when he finalizes a deal to fight Trinidad. I mean, look, you know, some of these fighters, you know, they have these big ass egos. They go into the ring, and they're supposed to think that way. But you gotta have a team around you to make smarter decisions, man. This is just a decision I just don't understand. How the fuck can you turn this fight down? Yeah, Mike Tyson was still dangerous in 2003. He was still a dangerous heavyweight. He still has the power. He still has the power now. But, you know, it was a winnable fight for Roy. But maybe he was concerned about the physicality of Tyson. He was concerned about the punching power and his ability to end the fight with one punch, even at that stage of his career. I mean, there's a reason why he cherry-picked John Ruiz instead of fighting the other champions in the division at that time. But why move up to heavyweight and not cash out, man? Not fight one of the, big name guys, legendary figures in the heavyweight division at that time. It just makes no sense to me. You avoided lucrative showdowns with aging champions against Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield to fight fucking Antonio Tarver. And you let your fucking leftovers, James Toney, take that from you. You let James Toney take away that Evander Holyfield matchup, and look what happened. He ends up stopping him. Ends up becoming a player in the heavyweight division. He fucked up, unfortunately, but still, he took the fight, man, against one of those aging legends in the heavyweight division. You didn't. But now, 17 years later, now realizing that you made a dumbass decision, which really, really affected your career and really affected your place in history of your career. Now, 17 years later, you want to fight a 54-year-old Tyson. Now that you're 51 years old, and hope and pray that you're quick enough and elusive enough at this stage that you can avoid Tyson's still very dangerous power at 54 years of age. Some believe the fight. Some still need to see it to believe it that this fight will occur, but it looks like it's going to go down. And I got my money on Mike Tyson, man. You avoided that fight when he was on his way out. But now Mike Tyson has been re-energized. He has rediscovered the hunger. And I predict a knockout victory. Well, if it's an exhibition, I don't know if they're going to be able to knock each other out. But I'm predicting a Mike Tyson victory in this proposed very late showdown between two boxing legends. Roy, you made one of the biggest mistakes of your career by not taking this fight. And 17 years later, you're still not going to be able to cash in. You'll most likely, if it's a real fight, if it's allowed, will get knocked out by a 54-year-old Mike Tyson. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.